All right, next one, Vuforia Studio. Okay, so Vuforia Studio is around really developing 3D work instructions with also incorporating IoT data. Okay, so it's around reducing the time and cost of training, helping people understand things. Can also be used for sales as well to help with the understanding of products. And there are plenty of customers around the world that are using that as well. Okay, but it's really around that simplification of understanding and training. Okay, so how it works with Vuforia Studio, there's a couple of steps to this. The first is to author and publish your experiences. And that's done through Vuforia Studio. So on our local machine, we would run Vuforia Studio and we would start to bring in existing information that we've got. So that could be 3D CAD models, could be part BOM information structures, animated sequences, could be scan data from scanning an area, could be photos and videos that we might already have. So I can bring all of this into the Vuforia Studio environment. Okay, and so inside there, we can start to build our AR experience. So we can define the UI. We can use a number of the various Vuforia engine targets. So things like area targets, model targets, image targets we've got. Okay, a couple of others as well to help align our AR to the real world. So that's the Vuforia engine technology. And then we can also actually integrate data from external sources. Okay, so that data integration is done through ThingWorx, which is PTC's industrial IoT platform. Okay, so the idea is that if we have ThingWorx as well, and ThingWorx is connected out into our devices, there could be products out in the field, could be our factory machines, could be other systems and databases that we've got. We can then incorporate that data from ThingWorx directly into our AR experiences. So once we've built that, we can then publish that out. Okay, so we publish that to an experience service, a studio experience service. That could be cloud hosted by PTC, which the majority of our customers are doing, or it could be running on premises where you control that yourself if you're in you have security needs around defense and things like that. So we can have that, and that experience server is connected to your ThingWorx as well for that IoT data. Okay. And then once we've published that out, then the idea is that for users to access and view those experiences. Okay, so they do that through a Vuforia View app. So this is a pre-built app. You don't need to build your own. So you just download that app from your app store. It's a free app to download and install. So that could be on various devices. So then we'll use that app to consume those experiences and view them. Okay, so we download them off the server and we start to look at that. And we can send it, we can even send information back. If we're dealing with IoT type information, we can send instructions back. We can even do things like do media capture, so we can grab screenshots and save those back in as well. Okay. So that's the idea of Vuforia Studio. Okay. So in terms of what it supports, it was kind of shown in the last slide, but in a bit more detail. So runs on mobile devices, so iOS, Android, and Windows devices. Okay. Also supported on 3D eyewear, which at this point is the Microsoft HoloLens devices. So that's either the HoloLens 1 or the HoloLens 2. So PTC is a big partner with Microsoft in mixed reality. They've won again this year. They've won Microsoft's best MR or mixed reality partner, as Microsoft likes to call it. Okay, and also supported with 2D eyewear as well. So a bit more sort of ruggedized industrialized devices like the RealWear HMT1, and also a couple of devices from 400 and 300 as well. Okay. So the idea of this is we can basically get that content when and how it's needed. So whether it's placing it down on a plane as a completely virtual model, aligning something on top of an object, or looking at AR information inside a space like a factory or a workshop. Okay. So at a high level, some of the features of Studio, it's really around quick, effective authoring. Okay. So that could be can be stored. That information can be published on-prem or in the cloud. Okay, and also we can integrate into IoT systems, which also then can create business systems. We've got the ability to view experiences either online, so we can download the most up-to-date version, or offline if we're going to be outside of connectivity. It uses a whole bunch of the different Vuforia engine tracking methods, as I mentioned before. Okay, it really enables the digital thread so we can start to pull information through and collect that and have that linked. A wide range of devices supported. And when you're showing that, that could either be a completely virtual asset. So if you've got the 3D CAD, we can just plonk down a virtual asset, or we could overlay something on top of something real as well. So some examples of companies out there that have been using Vuforia Studio. So Agco from their grain division. So they had a very complex maintenance procedure. They would get all of the service people in for a 5-day training class. 10 classes a year with 15 students, and it was very complicated, this process. And the process was basically taking them through I think it was 250-page PowerPoint presentation and lots of other things going on there, right? So they used Vuforia Studio to bring in the 3D CAD data of the product that they had designed and build these more immersive step-by-step instructions. Okay, so the outcome from that, they cut their training days in half. Okay, and they reduced installation time for people doing the work by 60%. So huge benefits to them. Okay, and all of the dealers have basically been saying we want all of the products like this now. Okay, they can already see the benefits themselves from the end. Another example, so Howden. So Howden make air handling equipment. So, so this was around, again, training as well as sales information. So really understanding that, all of the people involved, service, manufacturing, sales, and customers have a good understanding of their complex equipment. Okay, so how do we really effectively train people so they understand our products? So they used Vuforia Studio and they created, an immersive 3D product visualization, as we say here, to help with training or sales demonstrations. Okay, so the idea is to really help somebody understand, what it is that they're looking at. Okay, so I'm going to show an example of that here because I've got this experience. So you can see an idea of what this looks like. So let me just this before screen share my iPad here. Yeah, okay. All right, so I'm going to launch the compressor. So I am looking for that object in the real world. So this is Vuforia's model targets, and I just happen to have one of those here. So I will find that object in the real world, and you can see that it's now overlaying and placing my 3D data on top of it. So from a training perspective, okay, I can now see, well, actually, this would be a big sealed unit out in the field, but I can actually see and explain to somebody, show somebody what does it look like inside this, okay? So I can click on the various parts to get information about them, so I can see where they are, okay? I've got some virtual information like the hoses that run there that I don't have on my physical 3D printed model here to help me to understand what this thing looks like, okay? I might go into a safety idea example. Okay, so from a safety perspective, this pump does not sit there out in the field by itself. It's surrounded by a bunch of other equipment. So I can choose to show that all of that equipment virtually and give particular warnings around that. So the idea is that when my field service people get out into the field to actually see this, they'll actually understand, what do they need to look out for when they get there. Okay. Maybe from an operational perspective, I can see, let's turn it on, and I can see, a virtual example of this is what it looks like when it's running, what's happening inside. And if I had an actual pump connected up to ThingWorx, those values that you can see there could be streaming off that real pump and being shown inside this example. Okay, that off. And lastly, I could show service information. Okay, so I could show instructions on, well, there was a problem with the diaphragm inside that. So what do I need to do now to actually get to that diaphragm? Okay, so step through the process. Here's all of my nuts I need to loosen. So bring in other 3D assets to explain this is how I want to service this to pull it all apart. Okay, so that's a bit of an example of the sort of thing that we can do with Vuforia Studio.